Good afternoon. I'm Jesse Levin with AIR and REL Southwest. We're excited to have you join us today for our REL Southwest webinar, Informing Policy to Promote Equitable Funding Levels for Texas Community Colleges. Before we dive in, I'd like to start with a few housekeeping items. Attendees are in listen-only mode, and the sound should be coming through your computer speakers. If you would like to listen via phone, you can find the dial-in information by clicking Audio Options on the bottom left-hand corner of your Zoom control panel. Please direct all questions through the chat. In order for everyone to see your chat messages and participate in the discussion, please make sure the To area in your chat box is set to everyone and not to hosts and panelists. We do have automated captions available. If you do not see the captions, you can unhide them by clicking the CC Live Transcript button and then select Show Subtitle. Again, this webinar is being recorded. We will paste a notice about the recording in the chat, which you also received in your confirmation email. Regional Educational Laboratory Southwest, or REL Southwest, is part of a network of 10 regional educational laboratories funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences, or IES. REL Southwest works with stakeholders across our region to meaningfully improve student outcomes. We conduct this work in partnership with education stakeholders in the 5 states in our region: Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Texas. REL Southwest conducts its work primarily through collaborative research partnerships with districts, state education agencies, policymakers, and others in our region. These partnerships focus on high leverage education issues that our partners or others in the field have identified as priorities. What we hope you will gain from this webinar are the following. Understand how current outcomes-based approaches to community college funding may be inequitable. Learn about how the application of cost-based approaches to determining school funding traditionally used at the K-12 level can be applied to community colleges, and hear from policymakers and practitioners about how gaining an understanding of the true cost of producing community college outcomes can be used to improve decisions surrounding equitable funding policy. We will end the webinar with a Q&A session. As the webinar progresses, please type your questions for the presenters into the chat box for the question and answer session. At the end of the webinar, we will share our stakeholder feedback survey, and it will be sent to all webinar attendees afterward. This feedback is very important and helps us improve future events. Our presenters today include Richard Kallenberg, who is a professorial lecturer at George Washington University's Trachtenberg School of Public Policy and Public Administration, and previously served as Senior Fellow of the Century Foundation, where he led the working group on community college financial resources, and also as lead author of the book resulting from this effort. He will be discussing the importance of community colleges from a national perspective. Harrison Keller is the Texas Commissioner of Higher Education and Chief Executive Officer of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. The Commissioner will be discussing state-level policy efforts in Texas to reform community college funding with an emphasis on improving efficiency and equity. Bruce Baker is a professor of education at University of Miami and a leading scholar in the field of education finance. He was a key participant in the Century Foundation Working Group and served as co-author on both the book published under that effort as well as the report presented today. We're also very fortunate to have 2 additional distinguished presenters today, including William Serrata, who has served as president of El Paso Community College since 2012 and will share his perspective on funding issues facing Texas community colleges. And Martha Snyder, Managing Director of Post-Secondary Education Transformation at HCM Strategists, who provides support on post-secondary finance policy issues to federal and state policymakers, as well as multiple philanthropic organizations. She will be providing her insights on Texas Community College funding policy, as well as the report. For now, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kallenberg. Rick?
Thank you so much, Jesse, and I'm so glad to be here and be part of this discussion. I'm really excited about the study that you all have put together, estimating the cost of inadequate education in Texas. As you mentioned, Jesse, this is work that's been routinely done at the K through 12 level, but has never really been applied to the community college level. So I'm really happy to be part of this this important unveiling of your study. So as Jesse mentioned, I was until recently at the Century Foundation, where I served as executive director of a working group that discussed the thorny issues about how you go about costing out, estimating costs of an adequate community college education. And Bruce Baker and Jesse were both a really important part of that group. And so I'm so delighted that you all have taken the next step and done the work in Texas. The study that we're going to hear about is really groundbreaking. So I've been asked to set the larger context. I want to talk about the importance of community colleges and why we should provide them with the resources they need from more of a national perspective. If we could go to the next slide, please. I want to acknowledge that the presentation that I'm about to give draws from data put together by the Century Foundation book called Restoring the American Dream that came out in 2019. Next, please. So let me start off by highlighting the need for community colleges. Community colleges are America's quintessential institutions of the aspiring middle class. And yet social mobility in the country is on the decline, making the need for community colleges all the greater. Raj Chetty has found that if you were born in the 1940s, 90% of your cohort would go on to make more money than their parents in the United States. But those more recently, those born in the 1980s, have only about a 50% chance of making more than their parents. Next, please. Although the United States is seen as the land where anything is possible, it turns out that the American dream of working one's way up the economic ladder is actually more common in Canada, Denmark, and the United Kingdom than it is in the United States. In the US, only 8% of those born into the bottom fifth end up making it into the top fifth as adults. Next, please. Community colleges are incredibly important to fostering social mobility. Community colleges famously take the top 100% of students. They are open to all comers. And so the success or failure of the 9 million or so students attending community colleges has a lot to do with whether America will enjoy social mobility again. As the report being released today notes, there's an $8,500 wage premium for community college graduates over those who have a high school graduation. And if you transfer to get a bachelor's degree, which many community college students do, then the payoff is even higher. In terms of a community college completion, your lifetime earnings are expected to increase by $300,000 if you complete. Next slide, please. The tragedy is that completion rates in community colleges are quite low. So if you poll entering first year community college students, full-time students, 81% say that they would eventually like to complete not only an associate's degree, but also earn a bachelor's degree. In fact, 6 years later, only about 15% of students reach that goal. Another 23% complete an associate's degree, but 62% have not received any degree or certificate after 6 years. Next slide, please. One big problem is that community colleges are starved for funding. So the per pupil expenditures nationally have been over the last several years about $14,000 for community colleges, compared at the other extreme to private research universities where students receive an education where $72,000 is spent, and compared to $40,000 for public research universities. Next slide, please. Now, that comparison is a little bit unfair because part of the reason that research universities spend so much is that research costs a lot of money. But when you isolate what is the amount of money spent on education and related expenses, you see large gaps remain between what we provide in terms of education for community college students versus those at four-year institutions. Next slide, please. This problem is compounded by the fact that community colleges educate a much more socioeconomically disadvantaged population than four-year institutions and more selective four-year institutions in particular. And the education research, which you'll hear about further today, suggests that students who come with disadvantages need more resources to succeed, not fewer resources. And so the gross disparities between who attends community college by socioeconomic status versus more selective four-year institutions, evident from the slide here, makes the inequality in resources all the more troubling. Next slide, please. Importantly, research finds that resources matter a lot to completion. So David Deming at Harvard has found that a 10% increase in spending at community colleges leads to a 15% increase in the awarding of degrees and certificates. One example is the City University of New York's Accelerated Study and Associate programs, known as ASAP, which provides students with tutoring, reduced class sizes, advising, and financial aid of the type that is more typically provided by wealthier four-year colleges. These supports, which are provided within a highly structured environment in which students must attend classes full-time, have been found in a randomized trial conducted by the nonprofit research institute MDRC to nearly double the three-year graduation rate of students to 40% compared to a control group's 22%. The program costs 60% more per student, but as the slide indicates, there is tremendous return on investment. Next slide, please. Now at the K through 12 level, most states provide additional funding to schools based on need. So you can see in this figure, the vast majority of states are providing more money, not less, to those students who are in need. And as I said, at the higher education level, we're spending less per pupil on community colleges, which tend to have higher need than on four-year institutions. Next slide, please. So this has been a bit of a downer, so let me end on a positive note. There is a reservoir of political goodwill for community colleges. Community colleges are known in their communities. They tend to avoid the culture wars associated with some four-year colleges. And so there is great potential to do right by students and restore community colleges as an engine for social mobility. And I think the study that's being released today and which we'll be discussing in detail moves us quite a distance in the right direction of improving opportunities for students. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Rick.